Everything good, Kurt?
Yes.
I think we're ready here.
Okay. Welcome everybody to the November 17th, 2021 meeting of the Lawrence Douglas County Metropolitan Planning Commission. I'll ask Becky to read the rules for the Zoom call before launching in.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Becky Pepper, Planning Manager. Joining me here in the City Commission room is Jeff Crick, Planning and Development Services Director, and Kyle Kobe, who'll be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting. We will work alongside the chair, who is on video remote, to facilitate the meeting proceedings. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting if you're not speaking. The chat function for this public meeting is disabled, so all chats will go directly to the Zoom facilitator. Unless you are participating during the meeting, please turn your video off. This allows the active meeting participants to be seen on screen. You will still be able to hear the meeting. When you're participating, please turn your video on. If you have any trouble, you can send the Zoom facilitator a chat. The city reserves the right to mute people or turn individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting. Please remember to state your name and title before you speak. When public comment is sought on an item, individuals participating in person should approach the podium following social distancing and safety protocols. Individuals are required to wear a mask but may remove their mask when making remarks at the podium. Please state your name before speaking. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals providing comment via Zoom should use the raise your hand function to indicate that they wish to speak. This raise hand function may appear in different places on your Zoom menu depending on the device you're using and which version of Zoom you have. Individuals will be called upon by name in the order they appear on the meeting host screen. And when you're called on, please unmute your device, state your name before speaking, and again, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. For commissioners, all motions need to be stated clearly. After a motion is made and seconded, staff will call on each commissioner individually to provide their vote. Staff will then announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. And I want to again remind everyone to please mute yourself when you're not speaking, and I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Becky. Luke Sinclair, Chair. We'll go right into the communications. Do we have any written communications from the public or from staff, planning commissioners, or other commissioners, or any written actions of waiver requests or determinations from the city engineer?
Jeff Crick, Planning and Development Services. All communications were included as part of your online packet. We have no written communications from staff, planning commissioners, or other commissioners, and no written action of waivers or determinations by the city engineer this evening.
Thank you. Luke Sinclair, Chair. Are there any commissioners that need to disclose ex parte communications? Commissioner Rexroad.
Thank you, Commissioner Rexroad. Yeah, the one topic tonight is unique for me. I live on the street in question and happen to be the president of the HOA that is associated with this particular, where this particular project is being planned. So understandably, I've had conversations with every neighbor in that area, and have also had the opportunity to work with the applicant and his engineer, Mr. Storm. I should share that the staff report does call out concerns from the neighbors, but it doesn't adequately express the breadth of the concerns that are there. We can get to that later if there are questions. I will say though that having said that, we've worked pretty closely with Mr. Fritzl and with Mr. Storm, and those two have through the course of that dialogue gone quite a ways to mitigate the risk, the concern that the neighbors have expressed, primarily around that first and the golden factors of character of the neighborhood being changed or diminished. As you see in the packet, they have provided information, or they have provided increases in the footprint of the lots. And maybe the most significant piece, which isn't mentioned in the staff report, is a verbal agreement and work being done to include this new subdivision into the HOA, which would then give the neighborhood some ability to maintain the character of the neighborhood with influence over design. I've worked with or visited with Randy Larkin, and while there's no formal reason why I need to abstain, given how close I am to this, the fact that I am a resident on that street and that I'm president of HOA, decided to recuse myself from the vote, but would stand available to answer questions that you might have.
Sinclair Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Rexroad. Are there any other commissioners that have ex parte communications to disclose? Okay. How about Commissioner Rexroad, you sort of addressed this, but are there, you can revisit it, or are there any other commissioners that need to declare an abstention from the one item we have on our regular agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'll further complicate things and say that I am going to abstain from that item. We've had a few over the course of my time on the commission, applications involving Eagle 1968 LC or other organizations or entities affiliated with Mr. Fritzl, and I've abstained from those. Not because I think that I have a conflict, but I am an assistant U.S. attorney on my day job. I work for U.S. Attorney's Office here in Kansas, and obviously there have been interactions between those two as my office has prosecuted cases involving those individuals. So because of that, though I've not been involved in the prosecutions, I feel like it'd probably be fair to not be involved in the decision to avoid any appearance of bias or impropriety. And so during that item, I guess the vice chair, Sharon Ashworth, is going to run that portion of the meeting. So getting extensions out of the way, the next item we have is general public comment. Are there any people that have shown up in the hearing room or on the Zoom call that have any comments they want to make that don't involve items we have on our agenda tonight?
Kyle Kobe, planner. There's nobody in the room. And I don't see any videos coming on or hands going up via Zoom either.
Okay. Then we'll close that portion and move to the regular agenda. Luke Sinclair, Chair. And we have one item. There were 4, but 3 have been deferred. And so for that item, I'm going to drop off here and turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Ashworth.
Thank you, Commissioner Sinclair, Chair Sinclair. Okay, let's get this evening started. We just have one item on the agenda to consider approving a preliminary plat for Heritage No. 4 at Alvamar Addition, located between 4600 and 4412 Nicklaus Drive, submitted by Storm Engineering, and Katherine Weik is the planner staff that's going to present that project.
Good evening, Commissioners. Katherine Weik, planner. As Commissioner Ashworth has said, I'm here to present preliminary plat for Heritage No. 4 at Alvamar. This preliminary plat is for a residential subdivision proposal on approximately 3 acres, located between 4600 and 4412 Nicklaus Drive, or the north side of Nicklaus Drive. Key points in this particular preliminary plat, and I don't have a slide presentation this morning because typically with preliminary plats there are not a lot of visuals, but I do have Kyle at the ready with the plat document if we do need to take a look at that for any follow-up questions. But key points for this particular preliminary plat is that the property is located within the Tier 1 of Lawrence's urban growth area in Plan 2040, but it is not located in any area plan or sector plan area. The property is located within RS7 residential single dwelling district, and this preliminary plat proposes 7 residential lots for detached dwelling development on that north side of Nicklaus Drive. The existing land is currently being used as part of the adjacent golf course, and this plat would narrow a fairway or rough area adjacent to this area to create those residential lots. Any follow-up action that would be required with this particular preliminary plat. As you know, preliminary plats are part of a two-step platting process for unplatted property. And should this preliminary plat gain approval, they would still have to go through the review of the final plat process. And at that time, public improvement plans would be required to be approved prior to any recording of the final plat document. And then subsequent building permits would be required for any development on those lots. As was mentioned earlier, we did receive significant contact from the neighbors prior to the printing of the staff report. I would say upwards of 9 to 10 phone calls asking for the scope of the project, details of the plat, copies of the plat, and whether or not there was public comment process and how to go about doing that if they were so inclined. At the time of posting, we did not have any additional public comment. We did have a meeting with several representatives of the neighborhood. And after the results of that meeting, the applicants, upon discussing with the neighborhood, did revise the original submitted preliminary plat to adjust the size of the lots to gain a little bit more size for each individual lot. Again, just to go through the specifics of this particular area, it's approximately 3 acres. There are currently no lots on this particular piece that they are platting. It's part of the golf course. And so they would be platting it into 7 individual single-family dwelling lots and 1 tract that will act as a conservation or open space easement. The entire area is surrounded by RS7 zoning. So this is not changing any of the zoning in the area. It's only platting the property. As part of the criteria for review of preliminary plats, staff does check to make sure that it's compliant with the comprehensive plan. This property is already annexed within the city. It already has current access. Infrastructure and right-of-way are adjacent to the property to be developed. It is compatible with the comprehensive plan in that this would be considered infill development, which is supported in the comprehensive plan. Current land use, as I said, is undeveloped and is open space for the adjacent golf course. The surrounding neighborhood was part of a previous plat for this area under Heritage No.4 at Alvamar, and when that consisted of 13 residential lots for development along the south side of Nicklaus Drive and as part of the cul-de-sac to the west. So this plat would be proposing to complete the development along Nicklaus Drive. As platted, the property that's surrounding it has all been developed. If it has been developed with single-family detached dwelling units. This particular plat would propose similar size detail residential detached dwelling lots. They're slightly smaller in size. They would range from 13,000 approximately to 15,500 square feet, with an average lot size of about 14,400 square feet. And that conservation easement that I mentioned is approximately 25,900 square feet in size, and that is to accommodate an existing stand of trees. And that's outlined in the subdivision requirements, which I will go into in a moment. So the proposed platting is not changing any of the low density residential use in the area. Thoroughfare considerations for this particular property, as I said, Nicklaus Drive is already developed. It's a local road. It's currently built, and the platting action will not change the right-of-way or access to any street. There are environmental considerations when we plat property. As required in section 2011-01, it does require protection of stands of mature trees, and that's defined in Article 8, subdivision regulations. And those trees being of a certain size, in this case 25 feet or more in height, or a certain caliper, 8 inches or more in caliper, and that create a complete or nearly complete canopy. And so the applicant has proposed to set aside a portion of this particular plat to accommodate that open space for environmentally sensitive areas. And the requirement is approximately, the requirement is 20%, and this applicant has chosen to set aside approximately 21%, which would meet that requirement. for the open space set aside. We also check for compliance with the zoning regulations. And as mentioned, this is in the RS7, which is a single family detached dwelling district. The minimum lot area for this particular zoning district is 7,000 square feet with a minimum lot frontage of 40 feet and a minimum lot width of 60 feet. These lots that are proposed exceed those minimum requirements in all regards. The proposed platted area is, again, approximately 3 acres, and with the lot widths ranging from approximately 100 feet to 130 feet, and lot frontage ranging from approximately 86 feet to 105 feet. So over and above the minimum for RS7 zoning. Roads and access are also evaluated during the preliminary platting process. Nicklaus Drive being a local road in the cul-de-sac to the west. Local roads require a 50-foot wide right-of-way width and the cul-de-sac of 60 feet. Those currently exist at this location, and so all right-of-way is in place to accommodate the requirements for a local road designation. There are no vacations or dedications of right-of-way that would be included with this plat. And access to properties are not changing. All lots will continue to take access from Nicklaus Drive. Pedestrian access does exist at the site. Sidewalks are currently in place along the north side of Nicklaus Drive, which is immediately adjacent to these proposed lots. If for some reason during the public improvements, there's a need to replace or modify sidewalks to accommodate that infrastructure connections, that would be replaced to city standards to continue that existing sidewalk. Infrastructure or utilities do exist adjacent to the site. As I mentioned earlier, as part of that final platting process, public improvement plans are required to be submitted, and they would have to be improved prior to the recording of the final plat. Any dedications would go before the City Commission for acceptance during that review process. And there will be additional dedications of easements along the front of this development and in kind of the central portion to accommodate those connections to individual lots. So in staff's review of this particular preliminary plat, staff finds that it is in conformance with the preliminary plat review process, and staff does recommend approval at this time for the preliminary plat. We'd be happy to stand for any questions if you should have them.
Thank you, Catherine. And I do believe we have the applicant with us this evening, Chris Storm.
Yes, my name is Christopher Storm with Storm Engineering. I am here to represent the applicant, Eagle 1968. I really don't have anything else to add to Catherine's thorough staff report and presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission would have.
Okay, thank you. Kyle, are there any members of the public that have come into City Hall there, or anybody that has popped up on the screen?
Kyle Kobe, planner. There's nobody in the room. I guess we could pause for just a couple extra seconds after the end of this sentence to see if anybody raises their hand, but I don't see any right now.
Seeing no public comment, we will bring it back to the commission for questions and concerns. Who would like to start? Commissioner Carter, you unmuted yourself. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Ashworth, David Carter, Commissioner. I guess I have a question for staff. Catherine, you mentioned that residents had a lot of, or neighbors had a lot of questions, including when and how to participate in public comments, and yet we don't have any neighbors here tonight. I'm curious if you had any specific questions or concerns that were raised by the neighbors, or any specific objections.
Yes, so the primary concerns that were addressed to staff were the size of the lots as originally proposed and maybe continually if we have comments. I don't know. We haven't received any additional comments since our meeting that we had with a couple of representatives. And then the other very significant concern was whether or not these particular properties would be part of the existing homeowners association that's currently in place and would be under the same rules and restrictions that apply to the rest of the neighborhood. Those were the two primary concerns that were reiterated pretty consistently about among the concerns that we had.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioner Shanklin?
Greg Shanklin, Planning Commissioner. We see the outcome of the concern about the sizable lots, but what was the outcome of the concern about the participation in the homeowners association?
So that would be a private agreement between the developers and the existing neighborhood association. Staff is not aware of where that stands. We were not informed of where that particular item stands with those particular parties. The applicant may be able to address that more easily than staff can at this time.
I believe that information from the homeowners association has been passed along, emailed over on the current requirements and everything like that. And I believe that information is under review by the Eagle 1968. And I mean, Mr. Rexroad, if you want to add more, I mean, those conversations are still happening at this time.
Thank you. I believe Randy Larkin has popped up as well. Did he have a comment for this? Oh, Randy, you're muted.
Well, this is Randy Larkin, Deputy City Attorney. I don't want to get too far afield. Whether or not they're a part of the HOA has nothing to do with the platting situation. So it's kind of outside the purview of what we're discussing here. That's a private discussion going between the neighbors and the developer. I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of that. Lot sizes and things are something within your jurisdiction, but whether or not there's a third-party agreement outside of that is not something that should come into your consideration as to whether or not they meet the criteria for plat approval in this situation.
Thank you. Commissioner Shanklin, did you have a response?
Greg Shanklin, Planning Commissioner. Mr. Larkin's response was what I expected, and that's why I wondered why it was mentioned in the report at all, since I didn't see it as being relevant to our consideration. But that's just a curiosity.
Yeah, I might just clarify that staff did not mention the homeowners association in the report. That was only, we mentioned the lot size, and staff consistently let the applicant know and the neighbors know that that was a private matter that they needed to work out amongst themselves.
Any other commissioners wish to ask a question or speak?
I have a quick question. Erin Payton, Commissioner. It's a RS7 dwelling, single dwelling residential. Is that, and you said it's currently part of the golf course, is that typical that a golf course or part of a golf course would have a residential zoning, or was that rezoned at some point kind of with this in mind?
I believe this area may have been rezoned. I know part of Alvamar was under plan development. I don't know which particular sections have been rezoned. You could certainly look it up, or if Jeff or Becky knows offhand, we could get that question answered for you.
I'm Erin Payton, Commissioner. I'm not too concerned about it. I was just wondering if that was something that, like, if the whole golf course was zoned that way, zoned as a residential dwelling.
Yes, a significant portion is actually zoned residential. There are a few lingering planned development areas, I believe, in some sections of what was formerly a larger planned development that was the whole Alvamar entity, but I believe a lot of it has been rezoned to conventional zoning. So a lot of the golf course is conventional residential zoning or multifamily.
Jeff Crick, Planning and Development Services. Commissioner Payton, to your question, the golf course was previously zoned RS2 under the 1966 zoning code. So as the code converted in 2006, the RS2 district became the RS7 district. So under the old iteration of the code, it was actually zoned in a residential district. So it's been in that configuration for quite some time with the zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners wish to speak on this topic? I do have one quick question. In the application, the staff report, question for Katherine. There was a discussion of a central portion of the area that was reconfigured to add to the lot size. So can you explain that a little bit? And the second part of that question is, does that mean that the conservation area was then reduced for that?
No, so the conservation area exists in its entirety as it has always been since they submitted it. There were two tracts. There was a tract in the central portion for access and drainage and utility. That was separate from what is now being labeled as Tract A. So that tract in the center has reduced in size to just be really more the size of a typical easement instead of a large tract. And when they reduced that, they took that area and dispersed it amongst the lots so that each lot got a little more area. So there is still an easement in that central portion, but it is no longer a significant tract size.
Thank you. Any other commissioners wish to comment or have a question? Would anybody like to propose a motion? Commissioner Shanklin.
This is Greg Shanklin, Planning Commissioner. Before we go to the vote, I'd just like to take a moment to reflect on something that I think is germane to this particular site, but to the way we approach development of properties in Lawrence proper generally. It's undisputed that we need more housing in Lawrence desperately. And, you know, we're constantly hearing pleas from the Board of Realtors and the Lawrence home builders to create more housing development opportunities, particularly at the urban fringe, requiring the extension of municipal services. Yet in recent meetings, we've rezoned a mixed-use commercial and multifamily residential parcel to single-family detached. Meeting last month, we rezoned from multifamily to single-family detached. Tonight, we're considering permitting a plat that takes property that could support, even with the 20% conservation easement, at least based on land area alone, 14 units, not just 7. And so the point being that there are development opportunities in Lawrence that we seem to be missing, actually extend the urban fringe. And so, you know, sorry about the soapbox, but we need to figure out how to solve that problem. So I will make a motion, if I can pull it up on my screen. That we approve the preliminary plat for Heritage No.4 Addition based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Shanklin. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Commissioner Butler? Thank you. Are there any further comments? Seeing none, Jeff, could I ask you to call the roll?
Jeff Crick, Planning and Development Services. Commissioner Ashworth,
Yes?
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Payton,
Yes.
Commissioner Shanklin,
Yeah.
Commissioner Willie.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, and now we will welcome back Chair Sinclair. Thank you all.
Thank you, Luke Sinclair, Chair. That is the end of the items we have for discussion on the regular agenda. For miscellaneous new or old business, we do have the 2022 Planning Commission meeting calendar to talk about, as well as anything else that planning staff has for us.
Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services, just to present to your upcoming 2022 calendar for your consideration and possible adoption. That is the only item that we had this evening in addition.
Okay, Luke Sinclair, Chair. Has everybody had a chance to look at the calendar? Does anybody have questions about it before we consider adopting it? No questions or comments? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Willie?
Katherine Weik, Planning Commissioner. Our annual fall training, will that be happening this year or next year?
Jeff Crick, Planning and Development Services. We were hoping to be able to do a training that was more akin to your normal training, which is in person and a longer day. But given the current operating standards that we're in, we're not able to do that at the moment. So right now we're looking to schedule your fall training, hopefully in the spring when we can do the weather, and also then accommodate a longer, more robust day than what you usually see on there. So at the moment, probably won't see that until the spring at its best at the moment, but we'll keep everybody informed as we progress down those lines.
Luke Sinclair, Chair. Commissioner Willie, is that answer okay? Or do you have any other thoughts about that?
Katherine Weik, Planning Commissioner. I just want to stress that it's really important. We've invited a fair number of new members who've also not met us in person. And I think we are in danger of losing some of the culture of trust and speaking with the community. I just want to make sure that we don't shortchange those learning experiences, because I think they've been really valuable to me in my time, and I think they would be especially to our new commissioners.
Jeff Craig.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services. I can speak for staff on that one. We agree with you about the opportunity, which is why we were holding out hope to be able to do it in person this fall. But we're trying to have the in person in the spring if all conditions willing for that exact reason. So we're hopeful to kind of have that, because while the half day on Zoom training was nice, I think we all felt that it was probably not the best format or the best way to conduct the training to get the most out of it that we would typically expect. So that's our hope. We're going to be keeping an eye on the weather and the conditions and see if we can't fit one in early in the spring.
Luke Sinclair, Chair. Thanks, Jeff. That was what I was going to follow up to in response to Commissioner Willie's comments. I think I assume that everyone is probably sort of chomping at the bit to be able to get together and have one of those days. And for the commissioners that haven't been able to experience them, they're a lot of fun and a really good learning opportunity, an opportunity to get to know each other. In addition, the social that we usually have in conjunction with that is a good way to do that too. But like Jeff said, the Zoom half-day orientation has its limitations, and we were sort of trying to figure out if we wanted to do something like that and shoot for an in-person. And I think we were, at least in our conversations between the vice chair, staff, and I, felt like we ought to shoot really hard to be able to do this when the weather gets better, and hopefully we're in a little better position to be able to accommodate it. So let's all just really hope that works out so that we can take advantage of those opportunities for the reasons that Commissioner Willie said. Does anybody else have any other questions about the calendar? Does anybody want to make a motion to adopt the calendar? I assume we need to make a motion, Jeff, is that right?
Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services. We would appreciate a motion and a vote for it.
Okay, thank you. Luke Sinclair, Chair. Would any commissioner like to make a motion to approve and adopt this calendar? I see Commissioner Rexroad raising his hand. So we have a motion to adopt that calendar. A second? Thank you, Commissioner Ashworth. Jeff, can you call the roll?
Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services. Commissioner Ashworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Payton?
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroad?
Yes.
Commissioner Shanklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair?
Yes.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Very good. Luke Sinclair, Chair. Thank you. Jeff, is there anything else that we need to consider under the miscellaneous new or old business?
Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services. No other items this evening.
Very good. Can I have a motion, unless anybody else wants to offer anything or say anything? I think we could probably take a motion to adjourn for the evening. Anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner
So
Carter?
moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. We have a motion to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Rexroad. Jeff, can you call the roll on that?
Jeff Craig, Planning and Development Services. Commissioner Ashworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Carter?
Yes.
Commissioner Payton?
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroad?
Yes.
Commissioner Shanklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Sinclair?
Yes.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Luke Sinclair, Chair, thank you all. And we'll see you next month.
So we have met for an average of just over 2.5 hours per meeting this week.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
Have a good month.